So, nochmal einen wunderschönen guten Tag und herzlich willkommen zu unserem Webinar. Vulnerability Management ist nicht gleich Patch Management. Ich heiße Sie im Namen der Acquire GmbH und des Cybersecurity-Unternehmens SecPod. Herzlich willkommen zu unserem Webinar. Falls Sie während des Webinars Fragen haben sollten, dann würde ich Sie bitten, diese bitte in den Chat oder in den F&A-Bereich zu stellen. Wir werden diese dann am Ende beantworten. So, zunächst einmal kurz zu den Sprechern. Heute mit dabei haben wir den Nigel Mendoza. Er ist Senior Sales Engineer bei SecPod und wird heute die Präsentation und die technische Demo zeigen. Er wird das Ganze auf Englisch führen. Das heißt, genau, wir werden dann nach meiner kleinen Vorstellung auf Englisch switchen. Dann noch mal kurz zu mir. Mein Name ist Christoph Hellmeier. Ich bin Business Development Manager bei der Acquire GmbH und führe heute nur die Moderation. Zunächst einmal kurz zur Agenda. Wir starten mit einer Willkommen und einer Einleitung. Dann kommen wir in die Einführung in SecPod und SecPods Ansatz zum Schwachstellen-Management auf Englisch vom Nigel. Dann haben wir eine Live-Demo der Saner Platform in Action und am Ende haben wir dann noch eine kurze Fragen- und Antwortenrunde. So, zunächst einmal schauen wir uns mal kurz die Herausforderungen an. Also diese ganzen Vulnerability Management Lösungen, die finden die Schwachstellen, aber die große Schwierigkeit liegt daran, dass man eben, wenn man diese Schwachstellen findet, dass man die auch effizient patchen kann. Das heißt, meistens, wenn man eben jetzt eine Schwachstelle findet, gibt es dann eine Erklärung, wie man dieses Problem löst, aber man muss es meistens noch manuell durchführen. Und das ist genau der Ansatz, wo eben SecPod herkommt und sagt, dass sie eben eine Möglichkeit haben, dass sie eben nicht nur die Schwachstellen finden, sondern diese auch gleich fixen können. Vielleicht einmal nochmal, um kurz ein Gefühl dafür zu bekommen, was SecPod alles macht. Wir werden jetzt auch gleich nochmal eine genauere Einführung vom Nigel bekommen. Der wird dann eben entsprechend nochmal genau erklären, wo SecPod herkommt, was sie machen. Aber erstmal eine kurze Übersicht. Genau. Es gibt hier zwei Bereiche. Das ist einmal das Continuous Visibility and Exposure Management auf der linken Seite und den Bereich Cloud auf der rechten Seite. Das heißt, SecPod hat sich auf diese zwei Bereiche spezialisiert. Wir werden uns heute besonders den linken Bereich anschauen mit dem Vulnerability Management und dem Patch Management. Es gibt aber auch Asset Exposure, Posture Anomalie Erkennung, Compliance Management, wenn man eben Compliance-Vorgaben erfüllen muss und Risk Prioritization, also eben die Schwachstellen, die beim Vulnerability Management gefunden worden sind, dass diese entsprechend auch eben nochmal priorisiert werden können. Dann nochmal ein Thema für ein anderes Webinar ist eben das ganze Cloud-Thema, wo eben Cloud Security, Posture Management, eben wer hat Zugriff zu meinen Cloud-Workloads, wer hat genau welche Einstellungen habe ich vorgenommen, wo könnten vielleicht Gefahren sein bei meinen Einstellungen in der Cloud, aber das ist dann eben nochmal ein extra Bereich. Genau, ich würde sagen, am besten wäre es, wenn es der Nigel jetzt erklärt, wie SecPod das genau macht. Und therefore I would hand over to Nigel. And yeah, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I wanted to present in German today, but then I also remembered that I want you to actually understand me. So I'll stick with the English in my presentation today, and we can go from there. So I will begin by giving you a quick overview of SecPod, of our partnership here in the region, and about what the solutions are that we provide. So, an introduction towards SecPod and SecPod's approach towards vulnerability management uh, is that we're all about the prevention space. And we are not a new company. We are a company that has been founded in 2008. And since 2008 onwards, we have been building the world's largest commercial grade vulnerability databases, or at least one of them. So we have been building this database for quite a while now, and some of the other vulnerability management tools out there in the market, they actually make use of our database to power their solutions. And we decided, since we were going ahead and OEMing this database to some of the other vendors, why not begin with creating a product on top of our own database? And that's when we began in 2018 to start rolling out the Saner cyber hygiene platform. It's an end-to-end vulnerability management solution to find out vulnerabilities, fix them, and prioritize them all from the same console. Recently, we have also launched vulnerabilities and misconfiguration management for your cloud in terms of your CNAP. So we have you covered from both your cloud aspect in terms of what you have in the cloud in AWS and Azure and GCP, as well as your local on-premise infrastructure, such as your servers, your workstations, network devices, so on and so forth. Now, coming to SecPod's approach to the whole prevention idea and the vulnerability life cycle, we don't necessarily need too many tools to be safe because it is in our best interest to stop the attacker at its root cause. And every attacker, at the end of the day, will exploit a weakness. And the weakness does come in the form of a vulnerability. So we work in that layer before a cyber attack can even happen, before an EDR or an XDR or an antivirus even comes into the picture. We will work to close that vulnerability so that an attacker does not get access to your device or to your endpoint because of that serious loophole that there is in that device. So it is best to be protected at the beginning rather than to go ahead and finding out solutions of how to fix something that has already been compromised. And that is where SecPod plays a very big part at the prevention layer to find out things before they even go ahead and turn into a problem down the line. Now, traditional vulnerability management, if I was to talk about how vulnerability management is in today's day and age, let's say, is it sort of can fit into these 5 buckets. So it is it's a life cycle, you could think of it, where the first step is to go ahead and identify a vulnerability, to find out what is wrong in your environment, to figure out the CVE number, its CVSS score, and how many devices it is affecting. You then go ahead and find the next steps, such as the assessment, which will go ahead and tell you information about the vulnerability, right? Where is it present? What are the applications that it is affecting? How many devices is it on? You then have the prioritization, which will go ahead and list down by CVSS for the most part, your top 10 critical risks. Then you feed all of this information into a remediation tool for patching, and then you generate a report of the vulnerabilities that you have fixed and the vulnerabilities that are remaining to be fixed. So that is how it works right now in today's day and age. But some of the problems with this approach that we have right now is, to start off with, anything that is not a CVE or that is not a traditional vulnerability can be overlooked by some of the tools out there. So if you take, for example, a desktop that does not have antivirus enabled. Now that is not a vulnerability, right? Having no antivirus does not mean that you will have a CVE associated with it. But it is still a risk in your environment because you still have an antivirus that is not functioning. That means you cannot detect new malware. You cannot detect the threats that are in your environment. You might also have Windows Defender not up to date, which is another big issue in your security scans. And the whole problem with having too many tools, one for vulnerability scanning, one for patch management, and then another one for endpoint management, it can be a bit of a problem if you have too many solutions and there is no intermixing between these solutions. In the sense that there is no, let's say, congregation of these tools, right? So you always have to take reports from one tool and pass it on to another tool and then pass it on to another tool just to finish this whole life cycle management, which is a bit of a problem. And this will, at the end of the day, lead to bulky and hard to read reports. Long reports of just vulnerabilities that need fixing can be a bit of an issue when you're trying to go ahead and fix something. And these are just some of the issues that exist in today's vulnerability scanning systems, right? You have a lot of things that you need to focus on, and one tool will not just cover it. You might require more tools, which might increase the total ROI, which might go ahead and say the MTTR will increase, and you might have problems down the line. So that's where we have the SecPod CVEM approach. It takes all of the issues that you have in this slide here and sort of fixes them with one single solution. So what we have done in the platform here is we have gone ahead and created one single agent, and this agent will go ahead and find out what is in your environment. It'll find out the applications that are running, the hardware that is running, all of the software that you have installed, all of the virtual machines that there are, and then find out from the data that we have gathered anything that is not normal, let's say. So if you have, for example, 10 devices and one of them is running Google Chrome, but 9 of them are running Mozilla Firefox, then we will look at that one device and say, this is a bit of a problem. You then have the detection of the vulnerabilities, right? Your CVEs. You have your misconfiguration detection as well, which is your CCEs out there. Missing patches to find out all the missing patches in your environment, and any other security risk exposures that there might be, such as an open port, or like I mentioned, if you don't have your firewall enabled or if you don't have your antivirus running, all of these are still some risky things that you might need to focus on. Then you have the prioritization engine, which will prioritize the vulnerabilities and the misconfigurations, not just by your CVSS, but by the way that your environment is set up. So, how many of your devices are facing the internet? Do you have any critical servers in your environment that we need to keep a closer attention to? All of these factors will come into the prioritization engine here. And once we have a list of the top 10 risks in your environment, we then feed them into an inbuilt remediation engine to go ahead and deploy fixes and deploy patches for all the vulnerabilities and misconfigurations that there are. And once you have fixed everything, once you have deployed all the fixes, then you can come here and take a report out of everything as well. So a report of all that is fixed, a report that all that is left to be fixed, your timelines, your quarterly vulnerability report, let's say, can be found out here. So this is all in one single solution. You don't need multiple tools. One single solution will cover your detection, to your prioritization, to your remediation, and your reporting as well. And we do this, like I mentioned, for your on-premise devices, such as your networks, your endpoints, your servers, and we do this for your cloud as well. So your AWS, your GCP, your Microsoft Azure environments, we can help you both on your cloud as well as on premise to keep you covered in all areas. Of course, we have asset visibility and normalization, just a few of the bundles that we can sort of help you out with in terms of cloud security and risk-based remediation based on your use case. So just to sum up my short presentation here, it is one single platform for both your cloud solution as well as your on-premise, end-to-end vulnerability management and automation, vulnerability mitigation at scale, and continuous risk compliance from the same dashboard. You then have a reduction of your total cost of ownership by 3 times a minimum and affecting and achieving rather security effectiveness within your environment. So no need for siloed approaches, no need for multiple tools to get you here. We have the one solution, we have one agent that does everything from discovery to vulnerability prioritization and management and remediation as well. Now, why does the platform entice you? Well, like I mentioned, we have one of the world's biggest vulnerability databases, and we have a pretty fast scan as well. Within 5 minutes, we can go ahead and scan your environment, and I will show you that as well, and give you information about everything that is there within your environment. Now, I will go ahead and leave the floor for a few questions. If you have any questions that I can help answering from this presentation before I jump into the live demo, if you do have any questions, please be free to answer, uh, rather put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them.
So at the moment, let me check. There's one question. The CVSS score doesn't reflect the business impact. How does SecPod approach beyond CVS to prioritize vulnerabilities by risk?
So, good question there. One important module in the platform that I will show you in the live demo is risk prioritization, wherein we will go ahead and contextualize the risk based on how your environment is set up. And I will begin with showing it to you in the platform here. So this platform, like I was speaking about, is the SecPod platform. And what you see here is one dashboard shows you your distribution of devices and risks across your globe, and both your cloud infrastructure in terms of AWS and Azure, and your cloud workloads and your endpoint servers and network devices will be captured from this same dashboard. A key thing to note about with the platform is if you are an enterprise customer, what you can do is have multiple accounts set up as an MSSP, or if you're an MSSP as well. Each of these accounts can be treated as one tenant, and then these tenants will go ahead and have their own dashboards for you to take a look at. These dashboards are basically role-based access control applicable. So you can have only those people who need to have access to the dashboards have access to the dashboards, right? And only, let's say you need to give an IT admin permissions for patch management. You can only give him permission for patch management, or if you need to give him permissions for vulnerability scanning as well, you could also give him role-based access control based on this situation. So one key thing about the dashboard here is, let's say you have your active devices that we have found out. We have found out the number of vulnerabilities in your environment, also the misconfigurations that there are, and the number of patches that you need to go ahead and deploy. What really is helpful here, and to answer the question posed, is the prioritization engine. So we will go ahead and show you from the total number of risks here, so about 6,000 vulnerabilities and about 1,000 different misconfigurations, I need to focus on just 79 P1 tickets. Because in the way that my environment is set up, these P1 tickets are the ones that could cause me the most problems. And that is why I need to fix them as soon as possible. You then have your P2 tickets, maybe not as important as your P1. And then you have your P3 tickets and your P4 tickets here. Another interesting measure of figuring out how a vulnerability is supposed to be prioritized, not just by the CVSS score, is by looking at something we like to call as the cyber hygiene score. The cyber hygiene score is basically going to go ahead and take a look at all of your devices that you have and give them a score from 0 to 100. As you see here, some of the devices in my environment have a pretty high score. The score is closer to 100. This means that this device is pretty healthy. It means that I have fixed everything within this device. I do not need to go ahead and worry about it too much. But I have a few devices here that have a very low score. And these scores are not good at all because the closer your score is to a zero, it means that I need to focus on this device as soon as possible. Because this device could have a lot of vulnerabilities, a lot of misconfigurations, a lot of missing patches as well. And that is not good for me in my environment. So my Red Hat device here is my most important device within my environment that I need to focus on first. So let me give you an example here. So let's assume that you have an environment, you have two devices, and one of your devices has a critical vulnerability with CVSS of 10, and the other device has a CVSS of, let's say, 8. Now, if you just go by the CVSS scoring methodology, you would want to go ahead and fix the device that has a CVSS score of 8, of 10 rather. But what you don't understand, or what you don't realize right now, is that the device that has a CVS score of 8 also has its antivirus disabled, which should make it a bit more important to go ahead and fix. And that is how this scoring system comes into the picture. It will take into consideration everything as part of the device, your misconfigurations, your patches, your vulnerabilities, and any anomalies that there are. Now, the question might come, how do I get information into the platform here? Well, we have a couple of ways to gather information, and we have an agent-based approach where you can go ahead and deploy an agent on your device, and then this agent will scan your device, will find out the vulnerabilities, and be able to patch it. And we do have coverage for a lot of operating systems, both in use and legacy operating systems as well. And we also have an agentless approach too. So you can go ahead and scan your entire environment without the need of deploying an agent on your device. So both of these options is possible. And that is how you would get information into your dashboards here. Very simple, very fast. 5 minutes is all that it takes to give you that information. Of course, if you need to have in-depth information about each of the modules, then you can just jump into the waffle menu here, like I like to call it, or it's the main menu of the platform. And you can go ahead and find out information about each module in particular. There are 7 modules in the platform, and we have sort of separated them into your visibility and normalization, detection, prioritization, and remediation. And you can go ahead and purchase any one of the modules that you want to. We have bundles, of course, right? So it's up to you. If you only want vulnerability management and patch management, just go for those 2 modules. No worries. Within vulnerability management, you have a list of all the vulnerabilities that we would find, all of the applications that there are associated with those vulnerabilities, and a distribution of the vulnerabilities within your environment as per the CVS scoring system. You also have a lot of graphs so that you have an idea of what is happening with your system in terms of which environment, in this case it's Red Hat, has the most vulnerabilities. Are there any internet facing devices? Are there any vulnerabilities that are older than, yeah, a certain number of days? This is information that is very helpful for a reporting system. Plus your top vulnerable application. So the vulnerable application that has the most number of vulnerabilities associated with it. We will also show you information about some possible cyber attacks that could happen to your environment. So let's assume there is a potential cyber attack like a particular ransomware such as the Hello Kitty ransomware. This ransomware makes use of this particular vulnerability, and that vulnerability is present on my SQL client here and on my, I believe this is an Ubuntu device here. So I know that I am possible to be attacked by this particular ransomware because I have those vulnerabilities within my environment. And just like that, you have a list of all the possible cyber attacks that could happen to you because you have a few vulnerabilities within your environment. And it is important to keep a note of all of this. If you take a common ransomware out there and you see it here, you might want to pay closer attention to it and get it fixed as soon as possible. And once you have found out a list of all the vulnerabilities within your environment, you can then go ahead and fix them as well. By clicking remediate, you can go ahead and deploy patches for these vulnerabilities within your environment. Very simple. All you need to do is click on remediate here, and these will approve these patches for patch management. Similar to your vulnerability management, you also have compliance management, which is basically all the misconfigurations that there are. Now, your misconfigurations are anything that is not a vulnerability. Let's assume you have a necessity or you need to abide by the CIS framework, or maybe you need to have the NIST, right? These are some important frameworks that any company would have to go ahead and abide by. So the NIST framework or the CIS compliance can be implemented within your devices. You can go ahead and find out information about any devices that are not adhering to the CIS standard. And any devices that have any deviations from these rules here will be shown to you in the dashboard. So let's say you need to go ahead and deploy the CIS standard. You can go through all of the rules that CIS says. These are customizable as well, so you can go ahead and modify these rules and make them a custom benchmarking template. And then these particular templates will be enforced within your environment. You will find out the number of devices that are compliant to the CIS standard and the number of devices that are non-compliant to the CIS standard. So this will give you important information as to where you are lacking and where you need to go ahead and deploy these fixes on your devices so that you can achieve that 100% compliance to CIS. And once we find out this information, we will also give you the fixes for them. So you can go ahead and deploy patches to get that 100% CIS compliance within your environment. Okay. These patches will have information about them. So the potential impact of the patch, are we making some changes in your GPO policies, and are we changing any registry keys as well? So this kind of information will be given to you at a patch level for you to have a deeper understanding about what we will do once we go ahead and deploy this fix. Now, in case you have deployed a fix and that patch has caused you a problem, the next thing that you can do is if you have a problematic patch, you can also go ahead and roll a patch back. So, rollback of a patch is possible. It's very simple. You can just click on the patch that you need to roll back and revert the selected patches to get the rollback possible. And if you would like to have an automation rule enforced so that all of your patches get deployed automatically, you could also run an automation rule that says, keep all of my Windows 10 devices up to date to the CIS compliance. Okay? That is also possible so that you can achieve 100% compliance at a daily basis if you want to, or at a weekly or a quarterly basis as well. Are there any questions so far about vulnerability management or the platform in general?
So there is a question, I think, but it's not in the chat, it's just the hand up. Maybe I will try to give the speaking right.
Sure. I think Joshua has a question here. Wolfer.
Okay. If not, we can also continue for now.
Sure. We can put it in the chat as well, and then we can take a look at it um, at the end of the Q&A session right there. Once we have found out, coming back to the platform here, once we have found out the vulnerabilities and the misconfigurations, you then have this information fed into the risk prioritization engine. And the risk prioritization engine takes all of this information and gives you a list of your top 10 vulnerabilities and your top 10 misconfigurations. So let's see, for example, here at the top of my screen, I have about, if you add up all of these numbers, they are close to 6,000, a bit more than 6,000, um, 6,500 total risks in my environment. My maths is not very great, so let's assume it's 6,500. And out of all of these, I need to focus on just 79 here. These 79 are my P1 tickets. These 79 could cause me the most problems in my environment because they need to be addressed first. Right? So these are what you should fix as soon as possible. If you can fix them today, fix them today. Your attend are your P2 tickets. So if you can fix them this week, you can fix them this week. You then have your P3 tickets, and then you then have your P4 tickets, which you might not want to fix very soon, but it's good to keep an eye out on what you have in your environment. Information about the vulnerabilities can be seen here. So in my environment, I have 74% of them with an exploitability of low, but about 233 risks are having an exploitability of high. So I need to go ahead and fix them as soon as possible. And that's how the risk prioritization sort of helps you out at the end of the day to go ahead and give you those top 10 fixes so that you don't have to worry about what you need to focus on first. Further information about these risks is also shown to you in a small decision tree here. So we will tell you exactly why we think this is something that you need to focus on, right? Is the exploitability of this vulnerability low? Is it high? Is it medium? Is it automatable? Does it have a high technical impact? And what device does it affect? An essential device, or maybe not as essential a device? And that's how we sort of give you this information in a small decision tree so that you have an idea of what is wrong in your environment. And this is helping me figure out from all of these risks, I need to focus on just 79. So I can take my time and I can figure out to patch these ones first, right? And not worry about 3,977 because these are not very important for me. And you can also go ahead and say for your environment, what are the important devices? Do you think that you have some devices that are critical in your environment? Then you can mark them as an essential device. Are there any devices that are internet facing or data centric or business centric? Based on the way that your environment is set up, you can fill in the answers here and the applications as well. For example, if you think that TLS is something that you need to make as critical to make sure that all the versions of TLS are up to date, then yes, you can mark this as critical. And once we have found out the 79 risks in your environment, then you can go ahead to patch management and deploy those fixes. Let me not save this right now. Patch management will have fixes for both operating system and third-party applications as well. So let's assume you need, in my 10 devices, I have to deploy 898 patches, and these will fix about 13,000 different vulnerabilities. Coming to missing patches, I will see patches for everything that is within my environment, your operating system level patches, as well as your third-party application patches too. Deploying patches is pretty simple. All you need to do to go ahead and deploy a fix for the risks in your environment is to go ahead and click on any particular patch and then apply the selected patch. You can have a lot of controls such as reboot control, testing, scripting, notifying the end user, remediation end time, just to make your patching activity a bit more um, complex, let's say, or rather to make it a bit more granular. You also have the automation as well. So always have an automation rule that says keep my 7-zip up to date every day. That could be a role that you run and have patch rollback as a policy as well. Every time we go ahead and deploy a fix, then these fixes will automatically remediate a vulnerability. So if you look at the patch management dashboard here, you will see the number of patches that your device requires. In this case, about 310 patches on my Red Hat device. And these 310 patches will take care of about 7,000 different vulnerabilities. So I know that this is my P1 device. I need to fix this device as soon as possible. And we run scans automatically, so you don't have to run another manual scan to figure it out. Every time you deploy a fix and remediate a vulnerability, then you will go ahead and show you that information directly in the dashboard. So those four modules would be your security-oriented modules here. Finding out the vulnerabilities, finding out the misconfigurations, then prioritizing them as per your business, and then fixing your most important ones first in a automated fashion if you need to go ahead and do it automatically with automation rules as well. Besides these main modules, besides the security oriented modules, of course, you have other modules such as the endpoint management, which will go ahead and show you endpoint management capabilities such as remote access, software deployment, application and device control. A lot of options here for you to go ahead and manage your endpoints. After you deploy a patch, if you need to go ahead and deploy some software applications such as Adobe or Apache CouchDB, you can go ahead and deploy these applications or AnyDesk, for example. You also have asset exposure, which is your asset discovery and normalization tool to find out what is in your environment. So, a list of all of the applications, a list of all the operating systems, license management to track how many license keys you have used up till now in your Windows environment, for example, and all of the outdated applications here where you can click on the outdated applications and go ahead and uninstall them if they are outdated. Blacklisting and also applications that are not being used very often. And lastly, you have posture anomaly, which is basically going to go ahead and take all of this data and find out anything abnormal within that data set. So let's assume you have 100 different devices and 99 of your devices are running Google Chrome. Then one device is running Mozilla Firefox. We will look at that one device and say, why is one device running Firefox? Are there any outdated operating systems? Do you have SE Linux disabled? Do you have your firewall disabled? Antivirus is not running. So these are checks that we will also run for you to keep you safe and keep you up to date so that a vulnerability will not even have the chance of coming into your environment. And of course, finally, you have the reporting to give you an overview of your environment. You can take a report of, let's say, some of the saved reports that we have, such as a risk assessment report or a vulnerability report. These are out of the box, readily available for you to use. Or if you'd like to make your own custom report, then you can make a custom report as well. It's very simple. You can click on create new report and drag and drop your own preferred tables, your own information that you want to see in a report. You can get this information here. And then this could be a custom report. You can save the report as well and send it out to whoever you need to send it out to on a daily basis, on a weekly, or on a monthly basis as well. Any questions here? I know there was a question by Joshua before. Are we able to get the question here, Christoph?
It was a mouse slipper, so
Oh,
all
okay.
good. But
Okay.
we also have other questions, but maybe we do it at the end if you're okay with
Yeah,
that.
okay. No problem. Now, all that I showed you here was for your on-premise environment. Now, talking about the cloud, we also have data available that will help you out with um, your cloud situations as well. So any data that is part of your cloud in terms of your AWS or your Azure-based environments, we can go ahead and give you information there as well. To find out any assets in your cloud that are vulnerable, that are misconfigured, we'll also show you information about where you are spending a lot of money in your cloud as well, just so that you have an idea of how your cloud infrastructure is running. And similar to your on-premise, you also have the same features here, such as posture anomaly, compliance management, and remediation as well. We also have entitlement management in the cloud, which is everything to do with users and user access. So anyone who does not need to have certain privileges, that can be managed from here as well. So maybe someone does not need to have certain permissions. You can revoke their permissions on the cloud. And that is it in terms of the console, right? So just another high level overview of what the platform does is we are a completely end-to-end vulnerability management and remediation solution for your cloud and your on-premise environments. We'll go ahead and find out the data, find out the vulnerabilities in your data, find out the patches you need to deploy them, and give you prioritization as well before giving you the patches where you can go ahead and deploy fixes either manually or automatically at the end of the day with our inbuilt patching capability. No need for multiple tools. One solution can have you taking care of everything. At the end of the day, that's all that matters, to have your time saved. And this is what we're here to help you out with, saving time, money, and effort in terms of your whole vulnerability management module. So I'll leave the floor open. I think we can take a few questions now, Christoph, if there are any.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Nigel. Great presentation. So we've got a couple questions. The first one I see here is, maybe I missed the part, but if it's for MSPs, it's a multi-tenant solution to split customers and give them access on their own right. Is there a demo URL to click around on our own?
Yes. So the platform is built as an MSSP help-centric platform. So you can have, let's say, multiple accounts created in both your cloud and on-premise. Each of these accounts can be, if you're an MSSP, managed as one individual customer. So if you take custom demo account as one customer, product demo account could be another customer. And then each of these customers will have their own dashboard. And you can give role-based access control for only those customers to access their accounts. So for an MSSP, you could assume SecPod as an MSSP. And I have multiple customers here called custom demo account, product demo account, ServiceNow demo account, and Alondra. So these are the different accounts that you can have as an MSSP, and each of them could be taken as one customer for you. Good
Okay,
question there.
perfect. Thank you. Um, so there's another one. Patching is usually the bottleneck in vulnerability management. How does SecPod bridge the gap between identification and remediation?
So whenever we go ahead and deploy patches for your environment, we will automatically also fix a vulnerability. And these modules are tied together very tightly. So within vulnerability management, you can go ahead and deploy fixes for the vulnerabilities that you are. It will take you to patch management at the end of the day. And in patch management, you can have automation run where all the vulnerabilities that you find in vulnerability management can be fixed automatically in patch management. So usually the bottleneck that we are talking about here is people take vulnerability management as a separate tool altogether, a big wrong report that I was talking about with um, thousands and thousands of vulnerabilities. They feed this list of 5,000 vulnerabilities into another patching tool. And the other patching tool will fix it and then give a report back for this vulnerability tool to run a scan itself to just to figure out if they have solved the issue. Whereas here, since everything is already interconnected, the reports are not necessary to be taken out and sent back because we already have the data between the modules. And every time you go ahead and actually deploy a fix, automatic scans will be run to figure out if the vulnerability has been reduced or not. So everything will be done by the platform. There is no manual intervention required at all, saving you a lot of time in the help of maybe using that time in some other important aspects of your work. And that's how the bridge sort of works. We don't need to have multiple people working with multiple tools and multiple teams. Just one guy with having these two modules enabled will honestly be all that's necessary.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And I don't see any other open question. In case you have any other questions left, oder wenn Sie noch nachträglich Fragen haben, dann können Sie sich gerne jederzeit bei uns melden, einfach an info@acquire.com oder Sie schreiben uns direkt. Und genau, wir freuen uns auf jeden Fall, Sie bald wieder bei unseren Webinaren begrüßen zu dürfen und wünschen ansonsten noch einen wunderschönen Tag. Dankeschön. And thank you very much, Nigel, for the great presentation.
Thank you so much, guys. Pleasure to be here.